You're live. Now it tells me. All right. I think we're live now. I was just talking to myself for 5 minutes. Let's double check. Let's make sure. Let's make sure. Oh, here we go. It just popped up. All right. Now I believe you, YouTube. Now I believe you. Told me I was live. That's a new one. They told me I was live and it wasn't. All right, let's start over. That's great. I get to do a take two here. Take two. So the topic of the day is how to stay positive in tough times. And if you're in the chat, make sure or I think I pinned the comment. So how do you stay positive in tough times? Um, and also, if you don't have an answer, and everybody has something they do, right? Like I just took a walk before I did this. The I Ching actually told me to take a walk. The I Ching, I asked the I Ching about what to talk about today, and it instead it was like, this is what's going on in your life, and it was like you're having problems. Like you have. So we woke up, the refrigerator was broken, right? It's making this awful smell. I go online, I'm like, refrigerator smelling. It's like, oh, it's leaking Freon. Your family might die. I was like, oh God, okay. And so I was reading up, and then I was like, okay, wait, they banned Freon. So okay, my fridge is not leaking Freon. Okay, crisis averted. Actually, my 1 year old has been vomiting since 5:30 in the morning. Our 4 year old daughter, she was just sick for like 3 4 days. None of the rest of us were sick. So we're like, maybe it's just her. Nope. 1 year old starts vomiting. And then about an hour ago, my wife, she's like, I'm feeling nauseous. I've got it. So luckily I feel great. I am fine, but it's probably coming for me too. So the I Ching told me, I asked it about this, and it said thunder over thunder, which is shock. Here, I'll show you the hexagram. So the idea of shock is that there's all sorts of crazy stuff happening to you, right? And it actually says here, when we exercise the ego, our spiritual development stops, and the universe must use shocking events to move us back onto the path. The hexagram translates to mean thunder over thunder. A continuing series of shocks occurs until the obstruction in our attitude is removed. Yale says my sister's whole house had a stomach thing as well. Yeah, I mean, and it's amazing. Like, so February is my birthday month, so I kind of have an affinity for February. But objectively, I think February might be the worst month. It's the end of winter. Everybody's just had it. People are sick. They're stuck inside. I know we're stuck inside. It's cold out. It's gray. Like you can see, it's gray right now. It's brutal. It's a brutal month, and it's like it's the best month to go take a vacation, which we didn't plan. We didn't plan a vacation. I just started a new business, so I'm like, I'm not ready to take a vacation. And but hey, that's February for you. Valentine's Day, which we decided to celebrate this year instead of being grumpy about it, like we were previously. Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. I mean, look, I think we need more holidays. Like we need more fun, exciting holidays. There's the holidays, right? Which is a real holiday period where everybody has fun, and it's almost too stressful because you get Thanksgiving and then Christmas and then New Year's, and by the time New Year's rolls around, you're like, I don't care about this. Like New Year's, you can keep it, and maybe that's how I feel being in my late 30s. But when I was younger, it's a lot more fun. When you're single and you're living in the city, it's a lot more fun. But for us, our family, we have Christmas, and that's like the main event. You're really excited about it, but then you're just like, you've just had it. So it'd be great to have the holidays spread out across the year so that you have something to look forward to all the time. And yeah, Valentine's Day is a perfectly beautiful holiday to celebrate, even if it is a Hallmark holiday, whatever. It's part of our culture, so just embrace it. That's kind of how I look at it. Um, so, anyways, back to my story. The fridge breaks, the 1 year old's vomiting, the wife is nauseous, and it just feels like everything's going wrong all of a sudden. And then the I Ching was like, yes, everything's going wrong, and it's your fault. My fault, right? Uh, and it's basically like you have an obstruction in your attitude. And what I've realized is that when things go wrong, we often revert to a previous version of ourselves that isn't has isn't doing the things that we're supposed to be doing, or isn't acting on the lessons that we've been learning, right? We've been improving ourselves. When you're in a good state, you've got all these things that you're doing. It's like you're working out, you have a better mindset, and all these things that you've been working on and thinking about. And then something goes wrong, and you immediately kind of just fall into an old habit. And I feel like that was happening for me. And my old habit was like getting really angry. Like I was just like, I can't believe everything's going wrong. Why does it have to be like this? I can't believe this thing and this thing is all happening at once. And it's like actually, often when things go wrong in a series, like when it rains, it pours. It's like they all have a theme, right? And when you take a step back, you realize often the things that are going wrong, they're not that big a deal, right? Like you can handle what's going wrong, right? Rag Willie, hey, welcome, welcome. Is my audio good, guys? Let me know in the chat, okay? I want to make sure that that's good. Oh, I was gonna play some music too. Let's see if we can get that going. Just a little bit of oh, too loud. All right. I noticed that. So I created a playlist of the copyrighted songs that I can play for through YouTube, and the first song is called "We Got This." So that's what this song is called. It's called "We Got This." Let me know if you can hear the music also and how the music sounds. All right. Um, we got this, right? Isn't that a beautiful name for the first song that we're listening to? Um, because, and that's what I was just saying. Like when things go wrong, you take a step back. Neil says he doesn't hear the music. Okay. Yeah. Well, all right. If you don't hear the music, I'm just gonna turn it down because I'm not on OBS. I was just hoping the speakers would pick it up, but it's probably wasted. So don't worry about it. I'll just turn it down because otherwise it's going to distract me. I got to be able to think. Um, so yeah, I feel like the biggest lesson, and this is my lesson, but hopefully it can help you. Because like I said, I was falling into the old pattern of getting angry. Like the fridge is broken. The wife is sick. The 1-year-old's sick. The daughter was just sick. I don't feel like I have time. I'm not organized. Like my desk is a mess. You can't see it. It's out of frame. But I had all these things I wanted to do before the live stream. I thought I was gonna have, like, all day, but instead I was helping my wife because the son is sick. I was diagnosing the fridge. Um, I don't know if I've run this live stream twice, so I don't know if I mentioned this, but I thought the fridge was leaking Freon and poisoning my family. It's like, "No, that's okay. That's not happening." My wife actually spent, like, an hour on the phone getting the technicians because we have a warranty, the fridge isn't even a year old. So my hand is out of the frame here. My fridge isn't even a year old, and so it's under warranty, and so we got a technician, they're on their way, basically, like, it's taken care of. So, the I think the moral of the story is, like, things work out, especially when you kinda step back and you just accept what's happening, or you realize that it's gonna be okay, things are working out, right? I mentioned in one of my videos, the element video, that our life is never really threatened, right? In the modern age, you get anxious and your reptilian brain has no discernment between being anxious about like when is our refrigerator going to get fixed, right? I don't want like the sushi to go bad or whatever's in the fridge, the cold cuts. That is not a big deal. It's not life threatening versus like there's a tiger coming out of the jungle. And your body reacts the same way to both of them. But it's your job to use your logic and your experience, your wisdom to deep breathe deeply and realize that everything's okay, right? And also for me, the biggest thing is like I'm kind of like fighting with my wife because she got upset with me because I didn't get up in the middle of the night. I didn't know I was supposed to get up. Neither one of us got enough sleep, right? I mean, that's life with small children, especially when they're sick. And so we're fighting about it, but instead I need to take a deep breath and try to help the situation, right? That's the way of service. The way of service is not to get angry. Yale says, "That's why I think we get so angry when we drive. We're doing the most dangerous thing that we do on a daily basis." That's so funny you say that because I was literally talking about this with Rackham Willie like 2 days ago. Synchronicity, right? He was talking to me. He was driving and he got really angry because somebody cut him off. And that's exactly it, right? Like the reason road rage is a thing is because your instincts kick in and you're like, this person's like threatening my life, right? Or threatening my family's life, even worse. Yeah, Rackham says 100%. Yeah, exactly. So so yeah, I mean, driving, maybe that's the one thing in our lives because driving is one of the most dangerous things you do. Although, obviously, compared to let's say seeing a tiger emerge out of the jungle, you're doing way better driving, right? You're in way better shape when you're driving than when you see a tiger, 100 feet away. Um, so even in that situation, you're better off breathing deeply. And there's nothing, we think getting angry, or maybe our instincts say getting angry is going to help the situation, but the person in the other car can't hear us. It's not a life-threatening situation where getting angry with somebody is going to help you save your life. It's actually going to probably make it more dangerous for you. So it's another example where our immediate reptilian animalistic instinct is not correct, right? So that's kind of my point here is like in order to stay positive in tough times, it really takes that discipline to remind yourself that you're okay and that this problem will be solved. You are capable of solving this problem. Um, all the tools that you need are already available to you. And if they're not, there's somebody who can help you, right? Like with our refrigerator, I don't know how to fix it. I think from what it seems like, something inside of it burnt up and it was on fire, or electrically, it's burning plastic. So I have no capability to fix that. But just a phone call away, somebody is going to come and help us. So that's the idea. Yale says you have like insight heightened senses on the road, right? You're alert when you're driving. Um, no one treats it like it's so dangerous. Yeah, I mean, and it's funny when you're driving, no one treats it like it's dangerous, but then when it goes wrong, it's suddenly, that's how the reptilian brain works, like the unconscious mind, right? There's the unconscious, the subconscious, and the conscious. Um, it works on such an order of magnitude faster than your conscious mind. So it's just like you just react, right? Um, I kind of lost my thread there, but basically, if you can remember that things are okay, that's what's important. And I do actually have a quote. I just put out a video of my favorite quotes of the Wahoo Chinggis. It might be my favorite video because I've watched it like 3 or 4 times myself. I'm really hoping it's going to do well. I recommend you watch it maybe after this. I collected my favorite quotes from the Wahoo Ching, which is my favorite book, and I put them in kind of a logical order, and I found pictures to go with each quote, and so it's really a fun one. And um, yeah, so I wanted to talk about that one, difficulty. Yeah. So here's the quote. Remember, it is not that those who cultivate wholeness and virtue in themselves do not encounter difficulties in life. It is that they understand that difficulties are the very road to immortality. By meeting them calmly and openly, however they unfold, and joyfully developing themselves in response to them, they become as natural, as complete, and as eternal as the Tao itself. So the idea is like life is filled with difficulties, and that is the point of life, right? Like if everything was easy, here's a really cool story, kind of stolen. If you've ever watched The Twilight Zone, there's this fantastic episode. Okay, this guy wakes up and he's in a casino. And he's like in a hotel room, and he goes downstairs to the casino and he starts like talking and he starts gambling and he wins every single bet. Every single bet. And he's talking to people, he's talking to women, he's talking to men, whatever. They're all laughing hysterically at everything he says. Like everything he says, they are like, they're just, they love it. Everything he says is amazing, right? So he's betting and he just has the best day of his life. He won everything. Everybody loves him. He goes to bed. He wakes up and it's the same thing. He goes downstairs and he's got this butler guy who's kind of talking to him. And the butler guy's a little different than everybody. He's kind of telling him what to do. And so this goes on for the rest of the episode. Like he keeps betting, he wins every time. He talks to anybody, they laugh hysterically, they just love him. It doesn't matter what he says, basically. And finally he goes and speaks with his butler. And he's like, I think I understand what happened. I'm dead and this is heaven. I didn't think heaven was going to be like this. He's kind of like horrified because it's not fun anymore. You can tell he's not having fun anymore. Every time he bets, the same thing happens. He wins. Every time he talks to anybody, they just laugh and think it's amazing. And finally, he says to his butler, this is the last scene of the show. He says, I didn't think heaven would be like this. And his butler says, who said this was heaven? And that's the end of the episode. So, I mean, obviously, so it's hell, right? So life where everything is perfect would be hell because, just as when things go well and when we're surprised that things go well, um, that's when we're really excited. When we're surprised in a good way, like we love that. But when we're surprised in a bad way, we take it personally, or maybe that's just me. But it's like you take it personally and you get angry. But just as life needs to be unpredictable in a positive way, it has to be unpredictable in a negative way. Because if we never had that balance, then life would be meaningless and there would be no opportunity for us to grow. So it's literally when things go wrong that we're put to the test. And I don't know if I mentioned this. Like I said, I've kind of said these ideas a couple times because the live stream didn't work. But um, is are you going to rise to the challenge or are you going to go back to your previous habits? And when you go back to your previous habits, that's when things kind of snowball and get worse and worse, right? Because you're just going backwards. So all the progress that you've enjoyed because of the things that you've been working on and thinking about, all of a sudden it gets reversed and you get a taste of that. And you're like, wow, I can't believe how bad it could be. And that's because, yeah, you're not going to just be handed progress on a silver platter. You have to show the universe that you're going to make progress. I don't know if you guys have ever listened to Bashar. He's one of my favorite guys. He's kind of like he's a channeler, and he talks about like manifestation and spiritual concepts. And one of the concepts that he explains is like, so you've heard, I mean, I'm guessing you've heard about manifestation. Um, in the spiritual community, it's a big thing. If you haven't heard of it, it's the idea that, if you visualize something, it's going to come to you. And if you believe that you're going to attain something, it's going to come to you. But what he says is that in order to attain the thing, you actually have to prove that you don't need it or that you don't care, right? It's this paradox it's the growth mindset. We talked about this last week. Are you happy with the process, or are you only doing it because you want the result? Because if you only want the result, it's going to elude you. It's like a paradox. So in order to prove to the universe that you can have this thing and it's not going to destroy your spiritual progress, you have to actually get to that level spiritually, right? So that's the idea. It's like the universe will test you. It's like you're trying to change, you're trying to manifest something that's different from what you have. You have a specific, your life is a certain way and you want it to improve in all these ways. But in order to get to that point, you have to follow a process, and you also have to grow spiritually and accept that you might not get what you want, or the thing that you want is going to come to you in a different way, or maybe trying to get to the thing that you want is actually going to lead you to something better or something that's going to help you grow. So that's kind of the idea that I'm trying to explain. Let me check out chat here. Matthew say, "Hey, Matthew, welcome." He says, "Growth is forged in adversity. So if we look at life as as a teacher instead of getting mad, look for the lesson." Right. You want to look at life like a treat teacher. Yeah, I mean, that's what it is, right? I believe that that we chose to come to Earth because it's challenging, right? Like we chose to leave heaven and come to Earth because it's difficult. Because in that difficulty, you can experience so much more. You can experience so much more range of emotions and challenging situations that you can't do when you're basically in the presence of God. If you're already with God, you feel this great peace and this great love, but you actually have to kind of pretend that you can't remember that because we always have connection to God. You can always feel that peace and love, but we forget about that connection so that we can have these negative experiences that can then make us learn how to do better. And that's the whole point of the way of service. It's like no matter what's going on, can you remember to be of service to the people around you? That very simple idea is the base of the way of service. Can you remember? Can you just erase all the things your ego is upset about? Like I said earlier, your life is not threatened. Everything's okay. What can I do for the people around me? What in this situation is going to make me the best husband, the best friend, the best, customer service person, whatever you're doing, whatever your job is, what is the best way to do this? And the most important thing is how are you treating the people that are around you? That's what really matters, right? Um, there's a great quote out of the Wahoo Ching. Yeah, here it is. Perfect. Rel- If you aspire to this sort of mastery, then root yourself in the Tao. And I would say root yourself in the way of service. Relinquish your negative habits and attitudes. Strengthen your sincerity. Live in the real world and extend your virtue to it without discrimination in the daily round. Be the truest father or mother, the truest brother or sister, the truest friend, the truest disciple. Humbly respect and serve your teacher and dedicate your entire being unwaveringly to self cultivation. Then you will surely achieve self mastery and be able to help others in doing the same. Yeah. And then there's this reminded me of another quote that I put into the video that I just put out. Don't think that you can attain total awareness and whole enlightenment without proper discipline and practice. This is egomania. Appropriate rituals channel your emotions and life energy toward the light. Without the discipline to practice them, you will tumble constantly backward into darkness. That's that's exactly what happened to me today. I mean, you you tumble backward into darkness when you forget what you're doing. What you forget your practices. You forget all the things that you've been working on, the things you've learned, and you just get angry. You maybe get sad, maybe get depressed. I mean, I was pretty sad too this morning. I was like, this is going wrong. We didn't get enough sleep. The refrigerator is broken. My son is sick. My wife is sick. Like, just like thing after thing after thing, and but it's okay. And more than it's okay is I can help. I if I can have the right attitude, here is a moment where I can really make the people around me happy. And it's amazing. I feel like I'm talking to myself here. Like this is so important for me to remember. If I really want to live the way of service, which I do, right? I created this project because I believe in it 100%. The time to exercise it is when we're having a hard time, when we're getting angry at each other. Uh, that's the biggest thing. Yale says, I think a lot of that can be fixed by daily practice, whatever that means to you. Yeah. I don't know if you sent that message right before I read that quote, but if you did, that's perfect. It helps you stay mindful and maintain. Praise Christ Yoga says yes. Hi, hey, Praise Christ Yoga. Good to see you. I see we got 6 viewers. I think that's a record for us. If you haven't pressed the like button, press the like button. If you're having a good time, hello, hello. Yeah. So I would love if you guys give me ideas. Like I said, this is about reading the chat. So if you have an idea, just put it in the chat as far as like anything that comes to your mind. Like I said before, just share. That's what we're here to do. I think we get like self-conscious, but just get in the chat and type it in. There's only 6 people here, so not many not many people are gonna see it. I promise. But and you can always delete your message if you're not happy with it. But I believe that synchronicity puts the ideas into our minds that aren't just for us, it's for the people that are around us, right? So we get these ideas because they're important to the people around us also. So that's part of the way of service is sharing things. Um, Yale says, the more you're in the state, the more you can stay in that state. That is why many religions keep you busy, and your life becomes to revolve around that practice. Right. Yeah, that's what the quote said. Appropriate rituals channel your emotions and life energy toward the light. You know, it's not that any particular ritual is like the right ritual, right? But having something that you do on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, um, maybe multiple times a day, whatever it is, like taking a walk. Like that's something that I got from Dan Coe. I recommend his stuff. He's one of the people who actually got me to start this whole project. And he's like, take a walk, do a thing, take a walk, do a thing, take a walk or run, right? But like walking, because our life is so stationary, all of my work is on a computer. So I have to remember to be like, okay, I got to step back and take a walk. So that's like a perfect practice. And that, everybody should be doing. And if you don't have time to take a walk, there's another practice called pacing. You just get up and pace back and forth. Um, and there's actually a biological concept where I forget what it's called, but it's like forward motion. Basically, when our mind sees things passing, it calms us. And you could think of this might be coming from evolutionary biology. It's safer to be moving, to be standing and walking than to be sitting or to be stationary. Like our ancestors were literally hunter gatherer nomads, and their whole life was spent walking. They would just walk forever. And you may not know this, but walking was one of the primary methods that hunter gatherers successfully hunted, because a human being can actually outwalk almost every animal. And it's because we're upright on 2 legs, right? So most animals are on 4 legs. This allows them to sprint. So, we can't sprint anywhere close to pretty much any 4-legged animal. They're going to out sprint us. If we try to chase them down running, we're going to fail. But actually, our ancestors succeeded by just walking towards them for miles. And eventually these animals, they run, but they run out of steam because they're using all 4. So it's like built deep into our hardwire in our brain is how powerful and important walking is. So there you go. That's one practice. Another one is meditation. Another one is music. One of my absolute favorite quotes and one of my absolute favorite things to do is listen to music. I believe the quote is, like the raining thunderstorm cleanses the earth, music cleanses the human soul. So I don't know about you, but if I'm in a bad mood, I just turn on a song that I love and it immediately just totally changes my mindset. And if that's true for you, that's a great practice. For me, I released a video about meditating with music. That's what I do. I do it every day. I love it. I do it more than walking. I need to walk more. I actually walk with music pretty often also. I wonder if you could visualize pacing and how would that work? Visualize. Why would you visualize? Why wouldn't you do it? I mean, I guess if you're stuck in a wheelchair, you can visualize pacing. Another crazy thing about visualization related is they had they took 2 groups in, old folks homes, and they had one group work out, and they had another group only visualize working out. And the group that visualized working out actually had half as many gains as the people who really worked out, which is crazy. They were able to achieve 50% of the benefits of working out by only visualizing it, right? Um, Yale says that's so interesting and true. We were able to hunt because we literally just walked them down. Great fact. Yeah, I know, right? Is that crazy? I remember I learned that. It's like, oh wow, that makes sense. But you would never think of that. You would never like be like, oh yeah, of course. No, it's like, wow, can you imagine? Can you like I can't even imagine. Just like, okay, the buffalo are that way. Just keep walking, boys. Just keep walking. Like, you know, you the first time you take your son out for a hunt like that, and it's like, no, well, we don't chase him. We just walk and we just keep walking. And eventually the animal is exhausted and you finally are able to bag the animal. Um, yeah, do it barefoot even. Oh yeah, totally. I love walking barefoot, but you got to do it, you know, in your yard or an area where you're not going to hurt your feet. Um, Say you're in bed at night to relax. Oh, interesting. You can visualize as a meditation. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I like that a lot, man. I'm gonna have to do that. I When I do meditations, I often am like flying around. Like I like to do astral travel where I like fly through space or I just appear somewhere. But it actually visualizing walking through, and you can visualize walking through any scene that you might be able to come up with. But instead of just being there, like walking through it, I feel like that is actually a really powerful thing that I don't know that I've really done too much of. So thank you, Yale. I like that a lot. That's really cool. Yeah. All right. Do you guys have anything you want to talk about? I mean, do you have ideas for how to stay positive? I have more ideas. I can share them, but I'm just curious. I did have some more quotes. Here's another quote that I really love. I put this as my pinned comment on the recent video with this quote in the video. The quote is this: the Tao doesn't come and go, it is always present everywhere, just like the sky. If your mind is clouded, you won't see it, but that doesn't mean it isn't there. Can you be still and look inside? If so, then you will see that the truth is always available, always responsive. I take such solace in that. And you can replace the Tao with God. It's like God doesn't come and go. He is always present everywhere, just like the sky. And I love this analogy of the sky, like because you know, obviously the clouds cover the sky. And when the clouds cover the sky, it's kind of depressing. You know, you like forget that the sky is there. You forget that the sun is there. But it is there. And the same thing happens to us when our life is difficult. You know, our mind becomes clouded. You know, another analogy is like a stream or like a pool of water. When it's disturbed, it's you can't see inside, but when it's calm, it's clear, and everything becomes clear. But I really that helps me so much, and you know, just because you don't see it doesn't mean it all isn't there. And then the idea, like the truth is always available, always responsive. Like it's at any moment, no matter how ordinary, no matter how difficult, if you take a deep breath and like ask God for help, you'll get the help. And you can feel it, you know, especially when you practice it, right? When you practice this on a regular basis. Again, don't think that you can achieve whole enlightenment without correct practices. As he says, as Lao Tzu says, that is egomania. And I've done that. It's like, well, I understand this stuff. I study it so much. Like I got this. I'm good. But no, if you don't do the ritual, if you don't do practice on a regular basis, you will tumble backwards into darkness, right? Yale says, something interesting on music. I read a study that said, quote, "It is better to listen to music that fits your mood than goes against it. Like if you're sad, you should listen to sad music to feel better instead of listening to happy music to feel better." Yeah, I could see that. And the first thing that comes to mind is because you're gonna like not like that music. Like you're gonna turn it on and you're gonna be like, ugh, like if you're really mad or sad and you turn on happy music, like it's just gonna make you more mad and sad. You're just gonna be like, I hate this. And then you're kind of poisoning yourself against that particular song, maybe, or you're taking away I guess you're kind of creating a wall for yourself and blocking yourself from getting the positive energy that might come from that music if you listen to it in the correct state. Um, it's interesting because yes, I feel like for me, I use music, but I have to be in a better mood before I'll turn it on. And I kind of know that intuitively. Like if I'm really angry, what I really need to do is breathe and try to just help fix the situation. Help be of service when I'm in a bad situation. I feel like that's what I'm learning. And then once the situation is kind of resolving, or I don't, there's nothing for me to do in the moment, but I'm still feeling that residual negative energy, but my mood is already improving. Then I'm open to listening to more positive music. That's definitely what happens to me. So, um, I wanted to share some more ideas how to stay positive, and it's a crazy thing for me, but it's synchronicity. It's getting signs from the universe. Like to me, that improves my mood so dramatically because I interpret synchronicity and I interpret signs as like messages from my spirit guides, from God, from my ancestors. Like I haven't shared this one, but if you've watched my story about how I healed my father in the hospital, I ended that story talking about how I asked my father to see an owl in a tree as a sign because I was at this time I was actually reading a book called Signs by Laura Lynn Jackson. It's also in those two videos that I did. And she just talks about all these examples. She just gives example after example of people who have asked their deceased loved ones for signs and then they get the sign. And it's just like an incredibly, you can't deny the sign. So what happened to me? It popped into my head, ask for an owl in a tree. That evening that I asked for the sign, I saw an owl in a tree. It was in my daughter's book, right? It was I think it was the last page, Good Night Moon or whatever, and there's an owl in the tree. And I was like, oh, there it is. But I want a real one. And I had almost forgotten about it, and I was in a moment of doubt, and I was mowing outside, and I saw this giant bird fly by, and I thought, I'm not gonna see it. It's gone. Looked like an owl. Pull ahead. There's the owl. Okay, the owl looked down at me for 5 minutes. I got a picture and a video. You can see it on the video that I published. So here's the addition to the story. Okay, and I was working on that video, right? That video about this story about my father. And Google, how Google Photos will be like, hey, check this out. We got these photos from whatever time period. Look at this. And it showed me a photo of an owl in a tree taken on the day of my father's passing anniversary 6 years ago. So this was way before I asked for this sign, before I had any association of the owl in a tree with my father. But here I am working on this story, working on this video, and this thing pops up. And I was just absolutely floored that I took a photo of an owl in a tree on the day of my father's passing 6 years ago. And now here it is right in front of me. And coincidentally, so I think it was the 16th of January. I published that video about 2 days before. I can't remember. I might have, because this is how Google works, right? It shows you photos from years ago on that day. So it might have been the day of the anniversary. In any case, I can't remember exactly. I sent some messages. I'll check them so I can make sure that I all the synchronicities, just everything. There's no denying. It's like this is a message. So for me, when I see like, and I we've got a Discord. Join the Discord. I put when I see numbers, and I'm not like trying to see the numbers, but I'll see 1111. I'll see 444. That's a big one. Like I have a whole trip to Vegas that was is based on seeing 444. Like I knew what card was coming next, and I'll tell that story. I guess I should tell it now, right? Isn't that's the whole point of the live stream? Let me read the chat though here. Um, Praise Christ Yoga says, quote, the glory of God is within all of us, and we let our own divine, as we let our own divine light shine, we unconsciously give others around us permission to do the same. Mariana Williamson. Yes. Yeah, that's like, right, that's the way of service. That's what's amazing is when you raise yourself through these rituals, through recognizing the signs, right? That's the biggest thing. If you want to see, you just have to look for them and be open to the fact that they're signs. You know, if you're skeptical and you don't think that they're there, you're not going to see them. But if you once you open yourself to the idea, and then there's no going back. I mean, once you start seeing these signs, it's just like, oh, this is how the universe works. And it's like I've been trying to integrate this, I feel like, for 15 years. I mean, and this is a tough thing. Like, how do you integrate this radical change? Because we were taught that there's no such thing as spirit. You know, that's just fantasy. Um, we were taught that the universe is random chaos. You know, there's no logic, there's no intelligence, there's no God. You know, the mainstream is an atheistic culture, and so to understand that it's the opposite is I like I said, I've been trying to integrate it, and I'm integrating it more and more in the past year, and then I'm integrating it more and more working on the way of service. I guess it's been 2 months. I think almost on the 2-month anniversary. I think I started on December 16th was my first video that I released, so that'll be 2 months. Yeah, Yale says join the Discord. The Discord link is on the website near the top, and if you want the link, I can put it in the chat. I think I'm going to do that because I want you to join the Discord. We've been chatting about all sorts of things. You can get the behind the scenes ideas. You can see what's going on. You can help me come up with what I'm going to do next. So here I'm putting in the chat Discord link. Yeah, if you just click on that, it'll help you join the Discord. So yeah, I mean, when you see signs, and I have another book called When God Winks at You, and it's like I was thinking about a podcaster who lives in my area, and you know, I'm sort of acquaintances with him, but I was like, I really need to talk to him because I want to get some mentorship. I want to get his perspective. You know, he's been doing this for years, and he's right there. And then the day that I thought about that, we went to a restaurant, and there he was, right? So it's like that kind of sign from the universe. Or like you're thinking about somebody and they text message you, or they call you, or you see something and it reminds you of something else. Or like, you know, something that happens to me sometimes is I'll be having a thought and I'll open a screen and like the word from my thought appeared. So I literally was thinking the other day, YouTube is addicting, and I minimized a window, and there was a giant thumbnail that said addicting. Right? Has that kind of stuff ever happened to you? I love these stories, so please share them. I want to hear what's happened to you. I want to and like I said, there's books been written like this, but I want to put a book together where I've collected all these crazy things. Like I have another friend. He was telling me about his mentor and how he met him. He actually met him like buying chickens on Craigslist. Okay. So he meets the guy and he's talking to him. He's like, this guy's amazing. I can't believe it. Like, he's just like in his head, he's like, this guy's amazing. Like, I should ask him if he ever wants to get coffee. I want to be his friend. I want to learn from him. But he kept like thinking that, and he didn't do it, right? He just kept thinking, and he's interacting with this guy, and like the interaction is drawing to a close, and he just kept thinking it. Finally, they pull away, and he didn't do it, right? And he's like, oh, I can't believe I didn't say it. Like he missed his opportunity. I can't believe it. This sucks. And then guess what happens? He's thinking this. He's been thinking this for I don't know how long. Let's say an hour. And then the guy text messages him and says, "Hey, you want to get coffee sometime?" Right? Just an amazing moment, right? Rackham says, "I joined the Discord, but I've been a wallflower." That's okay. That's okay. But start talking because that's what it's about. Yale says, "Oh, Heidi's in the Discord. I got the Discord open because I just put it in. Yeah, that's awesome. Welcome." Okay, Yale says, "I have a crazy story about a wedding ring that is too long to type, but maybe I'll save it for a call-in episode." Nice. I like the teaser. I like the teaser, man. Okay, I will tell you my crazy story. And I have way more stories. This trip to Vegas. So, like, I'll tell you just the beginning of the trip to Vegas. I love poker. Okay. I play poker. I played poker for a couple of years. It was like the only thing I did. I was like, I'm gonna go pro. I love the game. It's such a fantastic game. And I've got a poker buddy, and we go to Vegas. We've been there probably. Maybe we've been to 4 World Series of Pokers. And if you're not familiar with the World Series of Poker, it's the biggest poker event in the world. Everybody goes to Vegas. It's funny, they schedule it in June when nobody wants to go to Vegas, right? So it's 110 degrees out, but you're inside, right? And it's just this crazy event. It's just this giant. There's so poker players from everywhere. The games are fantastic, right? There's just people from everywhere. Everybody who ever plays poker, like if they're anywhere near it, they come. And I hadn't been since my first daughter was born. My daughter is about to turn 5. So I hadn't been in like 4 years. This was last June. And my buddy called me or he messaged me and he was like, "Oh, we should go." And I was like, there's no chance. There's no chance that it's going to work out for me. We've got a daughter, we've got a baby boy. Like it's going to be ridiculously hard on my wife. I wouldn't even want to ask her. So I put him off. And then a few days later, maybe it was a few weeks later, I texted him and I was like, "Hey, when are you thinking of going?" And he's like, "That's so funny. I was about to call you." So he calls me, we chat. And I told him at the end of the call, because I was still very skeptical that I was going to pull off this trip. He says to me, or I said to him, "Hey, do me a favor. Visualize me in Vegas with you." Okay. Because I was like, maybe the visualization will help it happen. You know what he says to me? He says, "I already did." I was like, okay, okay, perfect, good. So then I get off the phone and I think I probably right away went and asked my wife about it. I was like, "Hey, what do you think about me going to Vegas this year with my buddy?" And she says, "Yes, do it." And I was just like, whoa. And then I told her about the conversation. I was like, and I told him to visualize me in Vegas. And he told me he already had. And then she says to me, "So did I." She had already visualized me in Vegas herself. So I was like, okay, this trip is like meant to happen, right? So I meet my buddy at the airport and I'm telling him about all this stuff that's been leading up to the trip. There's more stuff. I have this giant list. I don't want to go through all of it right now. I want to save some of these stories for another time, but I was just telling him about all the numbers lining up. He's like, "Dude, I've been seeing 444 everywhere. 444 on the clock, 444 on, your charger says you got 44 battery, whatever, on license plates." So now when I see 444, I text him and he'll send me photos of license plates and whatever he takes of with 444. Like he's a trader like I am, and the Dow was at, I think it was 44,444 and 44 cents. It was like 8 fours in a row. So anyways, fours. That's important. It's important for the story. Okay. Jump ahead. Okay. I'm playing poker. I'm at a table in Vegas playing poker. And I have a hand take place. This nice middle-aged lady's over there, and there's another guy in seat 2. and they get all their money in. Okay. She flips over. She's got pocket aces. So that's two aces. That's the best two cards you can be dealt. You're dealt two cards at the beginning, and then there's five cards that are communal. So when you get dealt two aces, that is the number one best hand you can get. It happens like 1 out of 150 hands that you're dealt or something like that. They're all in. They got all the money in. The other guy turns over. He's got king jack, and there's king jack on the board. So he's got her beat. He's got two pair. Her aces are no good right now. She's all in. She's losing. So, there, and everybody's talking is Vegas. It's the World Series. If you ever get a chance to go to Vegas or World Series of Poker, I might be going this year. I don't want to jinx it, but if you're going, you want to go, let me know, because I want to go, and I'll teach you poker and I'll help you play. So anyways, they're all in. She's got aces. He's got king jack. He's got her beat. She's like, oh, I can't believe it's so sad. The whole table's like, oh no, aces got cracked. Next card comes. Can you guess? It's an ace. Now she's got three aces. That beats two pair. So she's, oh, I can't believe it. The whole table's like, whoa. C2, though, he's not happy, right? He thought he was about to win big. So hand ends. She wins. He's not knocked out, though. He had a lot of chips. So she wins. And so when things calm down, one thing that you do at a poker table to be polite is you say, hey, nice hand. Nice hand. So I said that to her. I said, nice hand. She says, thank you. But then seat two, he says, nice bullshit. And like the whole table is just like, oh, jeez. And I said a little bit under my breath, but the people next to me could hear. I was like, oh, watch out for seat two. Bad karma. And then the guy says to me, he's like, that guy has been like that all day. He's an asshole. I was like, oh, really? Now, crazy stuff had been happening to me all through this trip. And one of the things I had noticed was that if somebody was behaving poorly, I was going to get dealt cards that was going to really ruin their day. I actually knocked out the world champion. He won, I don't know, 10 million in the World Series of Poker. I knocked him out because he was not polite to me, He complained to the floor that I wasn't forced to fold at the end of the break. Anyways, it was just a silly thing because I had helped him and I was nice to him. He was not nice to me. He's, self-centered or whatever. Lo and behold, a few hands later, his day was over. He was knocked out of the tournament. I made a great call. I will say so myself. So anyways, I was very aware that I was being given cards in order to deal with villains. And so I said to this guy, I was like, oh, really? He's been an asshole all day. I'm going to get lucky and I'm going to knock him out. I said that to him. A few hands later, guess what hand I'm dealt? Two cards. Can you guess? Put it in the chat. If you know the story, don't put it in the chat. But all right, I am dealt 4-4. That's right, pocket fours. It's a nice hand. It's always nice to be dealt a pair. It's one of the low pairs. It's not great, but when I saw those fours, I knew something was about to happen. That's right, 4-4. So I get pocket fours. I open, right? Nobody else was into the pot, so I raise. That's the correct way to play. Is you're supposed to raise to open. It's called first raise first in. I raise first in. Guess who's in? Seat two. Seat two calls my raise. He's the only one in the hand. Okay. Flop comes like king 10-8 or something. The flop is the first three communal cards. Now, pocket fours on king 10-8 is not good. Like if somebody has an 8, they got you beat. If somebody has a 10, they have a beat. If they have a king, they have a beat. But he checks, and since I'm the raiser, I can represent the king pretty easily. So I bet. He check raises me. Okay? So that's where you say, oh, I'm not going to bet anything. The other guy bets. Now he raises me. Now, pocket fours is an absolute fold here. Okay? You got no hope. You got 2 4s left in the deck to help you. Your opponent has said he's got a strong hand. You're in big trouble. You're not bluffing. You're not going to bluff him off of this hand. It's just not a good spot. It's a fold. but I knew the next card was gonna be a 4. I called that check raise. The next card was a 4. He, of course, bets. I put them all in. He calls. He had 2 pair. He had king 10. Okay. He had a big hand. He wasn't folding, but he's gone, knocked out because I got lucky on him. And then 2 of the people next to me were like, dude, you said you were going to get lucky and knock him out, and you did. I was like, yeah. So that was the number one craziest hand of poker I've ever played in my life. That has never happened to me. But, during this trip to Vegas, I learned a lot of things about playing poker. The biggest one is you're there to have fun. You're there to enjoy yourself with people, potential friends or whatever, even if they're not your friends, you're there to have a good time. You know, if you're there to like win and like you're not going to have a good time. You're end up being a villain. And also another big lesson I learned was not to be afraid when you're playing poker, right? Because you can't have fun and be afraid. So that is my poker hand story. I'm going to go back in the chat here. Susan says, numbers time, all the numbers you have coming up. Yale says, that's the worst feeling when you try to help someone and they are a jerk. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's life. Like, just because somebody's a jerk doesn't mean your help didn't make a difference, right? And also, when people do shitty things, it's shitty. I mean, and this is why you shouldn't be a jerk. That's why you should try to do your best, because you don't know what's going on in the other person's day, and maybe they're trying to do their best for you, and you're being a jerk. And I feel like those moments are very obvious when you look back on them. You think about it, it's like, oh yeah, I really shouldn't have done that. And then, you clear the air, you apologize. That's a big thing. And again, I feel like I'm speaking to myself. These are all lessons that I need to remember and to work on a regular basis, because it's probably the hardest thing. And that's another thing about these lessons. It's like the lessons that we came here to learn, they recur because they are the lesson we need to learn. I mean, that's why we're faced with these situations so often, is because this is one of the big things we need to learn. And if we can really learn it and not just like pretend to learn it, like you pretend to learn it by doing it when you're in a good mood or when things are going well, you can do the thing. But can you do it when times are tough, when something goes wrong, right? That's one of the biggest challenges. And I'm speaking to myself here. Yale says the feeling you get when someone is a jerk when you try to help them should be a lesson on how to be gracious in receiving, because you have receive should be a lesson on how to be gracious in receiving, because you have your own gift to give when you receive a gift. Right. Right. Yeah, I mean, everything is a continual motion of energy, right? So, what direction are you going to take the energy? Are you going to take it in a positive direction? You take it in a negative direction. Yeah. All right. We got 22 minutes left, 21 minutes left. We got 4 people in the chat. If you have anything like, did anything go wrong for you? Is there anything that's difficult for you right now? I feel like I feel like I want to help if you have some difficulty that you've been facing that is tough for you. I think for me personally, like I said, it's been things going wrong, and instead of like being helpful, I've been getting angry. I feel like that's been happening to me the last 2 or 3 days. I'm just like, and my excuse is like I haven't been able to get normalized. There's always been something going on that's weird, but it's like I feel like I've said that so much in my life lately, especially since I started this project, right? So I've been doing the way of service. I'm like super motivated to, write scripts, record videos, edit videos, come up with ideas, do research. I'm like, I want to do it. And there's always something that's making it difficult. And I feel like the reason that's happening to me, like I said, I read in the I Ching, it's happening because I'm not getting over this problem. I'm reacting in the same way I always used to react, like, years ago. I get upset and feel like self-pity about, all these things going wrong as opposed to meeting the difficulty with equanimity, right? That's what the quote was. Um, yeah, difficulty. Yeah. By meeting difficulties calmly and openly, however they unfold, and joyfully developing ourselves in response to them, then we can become as natural, as complete, and as eternal as the Tao itself, right? So it's like, can you meet difficulties with joy? That is like a great challenge, right? Uh, can you be like happy that something went wrong? And I feel like I can transmute this in my head if I can do this. It's like I'm happy that this thing went wrong because now I have an opportunity to do it differently. I'm gonna have to remember this because this is really important. Um, Yale says, "How good does it feel when someone is super happy about a gift you have given?" Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the joy of life, right? So, Laurelyn Jackson, I mentioned her in one of my videos. She changed my life. Her work has changed my life. Uh, and she says basically she boils all of the life lessons that she's learned from her work working with people as a medium and speaking to their deceased loved ones. But basically, she says this is it. The whole point of life is gratitude and forgiveness. Gratitude and forgiveness. That's it, right? Forgiving, forgiving them of their trespasses. You're forgiving people for whatever happens, and then having gratitude for the great things that do happen. And if you can return to those two emotions or those two practices, I guess, right? Then everything works out. But that is the great challenge. I mean, it's amazing because spiritual truths can be boiled down to something super simple almost every time. Just really simple gratitude and forgiveness. But just because it's simple doesn't mean it's easy. It's the opposite of easy. That is the whole point, is that it is difficult. And if it weren't difficult, it'd be pointless. If it weren't difficult, everybody would do it. It would already be done and it wouldn't be interesting, right? But because it's difficult, that's where life's rubber meets the road. Um, Yale says, "Hey, I agree with her, but I would add one more. I think you will agree. Service." Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Totally, man. I do agree. Yeah. You're right. It's like, well, service is like it's like what you're doing. If you're doing it right, you're just always in service. And then the two emotions that keep you there are gratitude and forgiveness, right? So it's like gratitude and forgiveness are kind of like related to what's going on, but service is what you're doing the whole time if you're living the right way in that way. I love that you get it, Yale. I love it. It's so special and awesome. So thank you. Thank you for getting it. Thank you for being here and sharing your thoughts. I love you, man. You're amazing. I love everybody else too. Love everybody who's here. I love everybody who's sharing their thoughts. It's what it's all about for me. It makes me really happy. Um, yeah, gratitude, right? Gratitude. So, yeah, I wanted to review what I said earlier. I wanted to maybe I should just read the whole passage about shock because it's just so on point for this whole discussion. All right. Shock, the arousing, okay? The shock of unsettling events, right? These are difficulties. Bring fear and trembling. Move toward a higher truth, and all will be well. The tendency of human beings is to rely on the strategies of the ego, desiring, plotting, and striving. When we exercise the ego, our spiritual development stops, and the universe must use shocking events to move us back onto the path. Right? So that's the idea here. Is like when you're stuck in your ego, that's when the universe is throwing things at you, and it's obvious to you that you're facing problem after problem. That's thunder over thunder here. That's what this hexagram is. Thunder over thunder. You see that at the top. In Chinese, the hexagram translates to mean thunder over thunder. A continuing series of shocks occurs until the obstruction in our attitude is removed. So this is the universe sending you difficulty over and over until you change yourself. It is important not to react against these shocks. Instead, quiet and open your mind. Accept that what is happening has come to teach you a specific and necessary lesson, and look inside to see where you are resisting the will of the higher power. Man, it's so powerful. The sooner you return to innocence and acceptance, the sooner the shocks will subside. Those who maintain a reverence for proper principles and an inner commitment to higher things are unperturbed by shocking events. They simply concentrate on deepening their understanding. If you find yourself feeling threatened by circumstances, withdraw into stillness and meditation. The only remedy for doubt and fear is a reconnection with higher truth. Shock is an important and beneficial teacher to those who follow the path of the sage. Make good use of this new beginning, and good fortune results. Yes. The sooner you return to innocence and acceptance, the sooner the shocks will subside. So true. All right, Susan says, if someone asks you to get them something, your reaction can be, get it yourself, or do I really have to? Instead, say to your mind, it is a pleasure to serve or to help. And that feels a lot better. Totally. Yeah. I mean, and again, that's like the whole point of this project, the way of service is like, I've made this point many times. I'll make it again. The way of service is the best for you, selfishly. Like if you want to think selfishly about it, the way of service is the best way also. I mean, that's just how the universe works. And again, it's like, because you will be faced with these problems on a regular basis. So you can either get angry at the problem and let the problem destroy your sense of peace and joy and harmony, or you can embrace the problem as an opportunity to give service and to help. And you'll see that when you do that and you bring value to people's lives, they love you. They will bring it back to you. It will return to you, right? In the business world, if you're an entrepreneur, you want to be an entrepreneur, you give the best service you can. You do the absolute best for your customers. Graham Cochran taught me, and as soon as I heard him say it, I was like, yes, this is true, especially today with the internet where everything is like free flowing. It's like, give away your best ideas. That's one reason I'm like, I love these live streams, because like there's no filter. I am going to tell you everything that I know, everything that I've experienced, all the ideas I have. I just want to share them with you immediately. Yeah. So I have another translation of the I Ching, and I wanted to see what they say about the thunder over thunder. I have a feeling it's going to be good. I haven't read it today, so let's see what it says. A sudden and an unexpected electrical storm can set off all kinds of reflexive alarms, sending us into a brief heart-pounding shock. This is particularly true if we've been so preoccupied with our own affairs that we've missed the gathering clouds and buildup of energy that precedes the ear-splitting first crack of lightning. Ooh, wow, that is so powerful there. I didn't even think of that. Like, when you're stuck in the ego, or you're stuck at feeling self-pity or sad, you lose your awareness of what's going on, and then these problems can get to you so much easier, right? And then they shock you. It makes little difference whether the onslaught is on a psychological or physical level. When you are taken completely unawares, it is natural to be thrust into a momentary gap of sheer animal panic. But after the initial hair raising thunderclaps, you can begin to feel the release of tension in the atmosphere. Soon you will be able to resume even the most absorbing of tasks without fear. Later on, you might even joke about how foolish it was to be so frightened. It was just a storm, after all, and it blew over as quickly as it came, right? So that's like when we meet difficulties, and then you look back and it's like that wasn't a big deal, right? Like all these things that go wrong, most of them you don't even remember them a week later. So if we can have that attitude in the moment, we're going to have such a better experience of life because we have the opportunity to do the right thing in the hardest moment. Any external jolts you have received lately are just wake-up calls from the big existential alarm clock. It is pointless to try to roll over and fall back asleep, or to try to belittle the impact by pretending the shocks haven't happened or trying to carry on with the status quo. The only way to deal with the turmoil is to look with uncompromising honesty at the fears that might have been provoked by the lightning and thunder. The arousing is a time when everything is briefly illuminated with a brilliance that throws all into sharp focus. Wow. That's like I said, it's like difficulty really magnifies where are we at? Where are we at spiritually right now? Like are we really as enlightened as we believe we are? Or are we just pretending and then when something goes wrong, we fall back into those old patterns? And again, I'm speaking to myself here. Like this is something that I've been thinking about and dealing with. But in order to reap the most benefit from the circumstances, you've got to keep your eyes wide open, stay alert, and avoid the temptation to run for cover. Only then, with the help of the increased clarity of the situation, will you be able to face reality head on. It might become obvious that much of what once provided a sense of stability in your life can no longer hold up to the stress of cataclysmic change. Hmm. Yeah, that's a big thing for the ego, right? If you're relying on some external source to keep your ego satisfied, eventually something, a bolt of lightning, you'll hit it and destroy it. And now you have to remember that you're okay even without that thing, right? Shocking experiences are generally something we try to avoid. Nobody wants to deal with shattered illusions, and even less to deal with having to clean up the wreckage. But although such times of crisis might force us to recognize our weaknesses, they also bring to the surface strengths that we might not have known we had. Right, right. That's what I've been saying is this is an opportunity to practice the things we've been thinking about practicing. To trust and let the situation unfold as it will can be exhilarating and ultimately revelatory. Imagine surfing the crest of an enormous tidal wave. Surviving the experience is bound to be humbling and thrilling all at once. Don't miss the chance to take the ride of your life into a more vulnerable, awe-inspired, and sensitive experience of reality. Wow. That is so good. It's so good. Such an important lesson that I learned today that I realized is, these difficulties that we face is an opportunity to do the right thing and to help and to develop ourselves as the quote here says, meeting these difficulties calmly, openly, however they unfold, joyfully developing ourselves in response to them, right? All right. So yeah, I think that's that story. We've got 6 minutes left before 5 minutes left before 4 o'clock. We'll close it out. But we got 2 viewers. If you haven't hit the like button, hit the like button. Put a comment in the chat if you have any last ideas to chat about. Like I said, I just put out a new video. I'm really excited about it. You should go check it out. Lao Tzu quotes, 31 Lao Tzu quotes in 10 minutes. If you want to join the Discord, I'll put the link in the chat once again. Join the Discord. And go to Way of Service. If you want to work with me, send me a message, fill out the questionnaire. Check out my other videos. I've got the elements video. If you're looking for a daily practice, that's a big one we talked about today. Like if you're gonna do well in life, you're gonna need a daily practice. You're gonna need things that you can remember to do each day. Right? I'll read the quote again. Actually, okay. So don't think you can attain total awareness and whole enlightenment without proper discipline and practice. This is egomania, right? So thinking that we can be enlightened, have a good life without regularly repeating these practices that we need to remember to do, it's egomania. It's like, oh, I'm so great and enlightened, but no, everyone needs it, including Lao Tzu, right? Appropriate rituals channel your emotions and energy towards the light. Without the discipline to practice them, you will tumble constantly backward into darkness. Right? So that's the biggest thing we have to remember. Like, do we meet these challenges and do we practice the things that we preach, or do we fall back into our old patterns? And that's what I was doing. I fell back into my old patterns of getting angry and wanting somebody else to fix it, before I fixed it myself. Yeah, so got the elements video. I've got the purpose of life video. I believe I've proved the purpose of life from like a cosmic spiritual perspective. I think there's enough evidence that shows what the purpose of life is, and it's been confirmed by people like Laura Lynn Jackson, other people who've studied near-death experiences, past life regressions, past life physical evidence. That's all in that video. I put out the Don't Work Hard video because I believe that life is not supposed to be hard, as far as like we're not supposed to be doing the same repetitive work over and over that we don't like. It's important to return to your heart. Like, do the thing that's going to make you happy and excited to work, and then it won't be work, right? And that comes from figuring out what is the best way for you to serve the world, right? What is the very best way for you with your specific gifts, with your specific abilities, with your proclivities, with your interests, with the knowledge that you've gathered throughout your life? What have you studied for your whole life that you can now share with the world, right? I saw a great YouTube title, and it was like, you've consumed enough content, start creating, right? And I think a lot of people avoid it because they have imposter syndrome. They're worried that I haven't learned enough. Like, who am I to talk about this thing? But no, I guarantee you, there's some topic that you have studied more than 99% of people, and that 99% of people can benefit from you sharing what you've learned. And that's just a basic thing. There's also all these things that we have skills in, that we've practiced, that we're good at. And life is supposed to be you sharing those gifts with the world. Yale says we don't create anymore. Yale says another idea for another live. I have a lot to say on that. We don't. We only consume. Right. Yeah. I mean, it's a consumer economy, right? I think some like crazy percent of the U.S. economy is consumption. It's like 70 or 80%, which is nuts, right? But that's like from a purely materialistic standpoint. I think there's ideas that we can share. There's like spiritual help that we can give. There's just so many ways to serve the world that don't fit into the box of what we've been taught. It's like, are you creating enough widgets to, are you building enough things to consume the thing? Like, that's not what life's about. That's what don't work hard video is about that I've made. Uh, Praise Christ says, true, we are meant to create. Exactly. Yes, we are creators. Yale says, everyone used to play music, make art, and share ideas. They're still doing that. They're still doing that. But yeah, I think, it's easy to get cynical about it when you look around. And then, the current state of things is like people are trying to get everybody to watch the same thing and like be consolidated. It's like, no, the best thing is for everybody to be sharing and also consuming. It's like yin and yang, right? You take and you give, you take and you give. That's a good life. You consume the things that really speak to you and you give the things that really speak to you. And I think a lot of people, yes, have gotten caught up consuming only, and then they don't have a place where they're giving, and that's where the blockage is. That's why I created the way of service. That's what it's all about, because I really think that that's where most people are stuck. I think people are also stuck figuring out how to serve. Like, what is it that they can do for the world? It's not just like go to a soup kitchen, although that's not a bad idea. But like, what is the way that you are going to wake up excited to help people? That's the key. Um, Yale says we don't write, we read. Yeah. Oh man, that was a game changer for me with the way of service. Because once I decided that I was going to do the way of service, all these ideas and writing was just so easy to me. And I really think that if you want to write, and writing is the basis of all content creation. Basically, everything starts with writing. You have to make the decision that you're writing to share. You're writing to help other people. That's what it's all about. And it's almost like it was like turning on a faucet, because I was stopped up. When you're stopped up, if your writing isn't going anywhere, why would you do it? But as soon as I realized I wanted to share it, it's like this faucet came into my mind. And I the first month of starting the way of service, I would wake up at 3 a.m. and I couldn't sleep for 2 hours. And every time was like the only way I could sleep was like go write stuff down. Um, and it was a lot of fun, actually. I kind of wish it still happened. I mean, it probably will happen, but I think I've gotten just share you with the behind the scenes with me is like I've gotten too caught up in trying to make YouTube work and like trying to get a positive reinforcement out of YouTube. Like, oh, okay, that video did better than the last one. Okay, I'm making progress. But instead, it just has to be about helping people and sharing my ideas for the sake of sharing them and not because I'm getting external validation. Right. Um, Yale says, we don't think, we are told, right? Yeah, that's a big part. Yale says, interesting, because I kind of do write to share, even though I don't intend to share. Yeah, I'd love for you to expand on that a bit. Because yeah, that was a game changer for me. It's like if I'm writing just to journal, like I'll just jot something down, right? I'll just like write like, I don't know, a paragraph, and I probably won't come back to it. But since I've been writing to help people, to share it with people, it's just like I can sit down and write. I have so many ideas now, especially I'll just go look at it and I can just expand on that idea. I can expand on this idea. It's like I have so many ideas and I'm like kind of jammed up by trying to get them all into YouTube videos, because it takes me a long time. I'm brand new to video editing, and it just takes me a long time to get it into a video and put the video out. So I'm not spending time creating content or writing. And that's where I think my strength is. So that's something that I have to work on. And also, I think in the long run, hopefully I'll have help. I'll have people who can help me put the video together so that I can just put the content out there. And I think I'm already getting faster and better at this. So Yale says, oh yeah, okay, I already read that. All right, we've got 4 people here, and it's 4 o'clock. I should probably get going, but I'm having a great time. So if you wanna keep going, I'll go another 5 minutes if you say in the chat that you want to. Otherwise, I'm gonna shut it down soon. So Yale says, well, I have to write like I would share it or translate the same later. But it also helps to write like you were writing for someone else, even if it's just for you. Hmm, that's interesting. Yeah. Yeah, that's I've never like put that into words about like I'll write because I know I'm going to share it, but I kind of write in the same style that I've always written. But if I think like I'm talking to someone, that is really helpful. That is really helpful. Thank you, Yale. Praise Christ Yoga says I do that when I journal. Um, yeah, I'd never thought of it that way. I like I said, I know that I'm going to share it in one way or another, but I'm not writing it as if I'm sharing it in the moment, which might be really helpful. I know that um, one of the biggest things that's helped me be good at live streaming, and I'm hoping it's going to translate into my videos, is picturing the person that I'm trying to help behind the camera, right? Um, Speaking to the person that I feel like is watching the video. That changes it, as opposed to the wrong way to do it is be like, okay, did I do that right? Thinking about yourself, right? Am I speaking the right way? Am I following the tricks or tips? It's like, no, the best way to really deliver something, the best way is to picture the person who you're trying to talk to on the other end of the camera, right? Yale says, I think explaining something like you are sharing it might help you understand it better. Yeah, totally agree with that. Totally agree with that. All right. Do you guys want me to go till 4:10 or should we call it here? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? We got 5 likes. If you haven't hit like yet, hit the like button. Hey, subscribe. I'd love to get a subscription. Pretty excited about that. James says, still learning to read. It can flux the more you read. I'm not sure what you mean, but welcome to the chat, James. Welcome. Eleanor says, help. All right, I'm going to take that as a sign. I'm going to take that as a sign. This was fun. Thank you for the invite. Yeah, I had a great time, guys. Like I said, this is the first stream where I was like, I want to keep going, but I am going to end it there. I love you guys. I do this every week, 2:30 p.m. on Fridays. So come join me every Friday, 2:30 Central Time till 4 o'clock. And check out my other videos. Check out the latest one. It's my favorite video. It's under 10 minutes, 31 Lao Tzu quotes in 10 minutes. My picks for the quotes. They're fantastic. So love you guys. And I will see you next week.